So in this quick video, I'm going to work up some fidget mats for an online friend who works at an elementary school. And I sent one last year and didn't make a video while I made it, and have been asked multiple times if I could, or what did I do, or so on and so on. So this is going to be kind of like a quick impromptu. There is no rhyme or reason when I make these. They're very scrap friendly. So like, for example, in this bag, I have leftover prairie points. So some of these will get used. And then I have some felt trimmings, which have texture, thickness to them. So I'll be using some of those. I have wooden teething rings. I've probably had maybe a couple dozen of these over the years, and I just pull them out of the box when I need them. I also am using empty thread spools. Again, it's something to fidget with. It's a textural. It can slide, it can roll. I'll use up some leftover elastic. I pulled out 2 backing fabrics. So one a little bit more feminine and one a little more male, and that'll just be, you know, the back. I also went through, pulled some batting scraps that's soft and stable. This is a linen that's been stabilized, so it's a little firmer and thicker. I also have some leftover textured minky. And then I have ribbons, ribbons, ribbons. And I have beads. I don't think I'll use the smaller ones, but these large ones are quite nice to use. And then I have a bin of scraps. So usually my first step, because they never are the same. They have same, you know, they have some similarities to them, but they are never the same. They start with the back, and the back size that I could possibly make. So this is a scrap. So this one can either be a long and skinny, or I can pivot it just a little bit and make it more like the size of a placemat, which I think I will do. So I'm just going to come in here, rough cut this little piece off. This will become the back. I'll measure that out just roughly. It's 12 by 16 with the selvage on there. So I'm going to line it up on a piece of batting and rough cut that as well. I do build this almost like quilt as you go style. So as I'm sewing the top parts together and then building the top of the mat, I do sew it through all the layers. So this one is now the back. The batting is now on there. So I will just get creative. I like the idea that this foam was here, and I like that this was thicker. So I'm going to go real quickly at my machine and probably just stitch those together. And then I can create, here in the middle, it could even be, what I do know I want to do is have a piece of fabric here at the top, which will hold the wooden teething ring. So I will create a loop, and just for future, I'll know that when I go to stitch this outside edge, that needs to be stitched down. And then I can take my ribbons in different lengths, tie them onto that ring, And then if the next step is this poofy guy, so real quickly, let me go sew this to this and quilt this just a tad. I'm going to go ahead and trim this elastic. And pin it to where I'm going to want it later on. Just so I can remember what I'm doing. So I did a crisscross on this foamy linen piece. I attached that top piece of cotton. Just going to lay it out while I'm building it so I can visualize. Now I need something that can go here. I don't know. Sometimes I add pockets, but I don't think that a pocket underneath the hanging ribbons is a good idea. Come back in here. I guess I'll just use another piece of the same fabric if it's big enough. This is great for scraps because nothing is, you know, perfect or pristine. There we go. So real quickly, I am going to sew the green to the bottom of that textured piece and then bring it back to my mat, carry it back to my machine, and then top stitch here so that it goes through all 3 layers, top stitch here so that it goes through all 3 layers. And that's the, when I said quilt as you go style, that way I'm starting to build the full mat. So I am stitched down. I connected 1 to 2, stitched it together, top stitched it down, connected 2 to 3, stitched it together, and then top stitched it down. And that way it's already working on its back side to be a quilted project. It will get a finished binding like a quilt does. What I can do now also, just to keep things in place, put him back, just so, because I would be the one that forgot where I wanted that to go originally. That would be me. So we're gonna have some fun with some ribbon colors. We'll go ahead and pull a blue. I like to do them at different lengths. And then fold in half. Come through the ring and just tie it. It's a loose tie. If you feel that the child might undo that, then of course going in and doing a knot is just as effective, right? It secures the ribbon, but it still gives that dangly ribbon effect, which I do like the knot idea now that I said that out loud. Wonder what I did last time. So the one that I made last year, I sent to Leanna, Pastry Cream Farm Adventures, and she had taken it to her school for any child, you know, that needed to use it. It is just a fidget mat. It's nice for quiet time. It's nice, you know, when someone's anxious or just can't sit still. I do have me one of those here at home. But she had said at the end of the last school year, the little boy asked to take it home. He loved it. it was helpful to him. And that's exactly what the whole point is, you know, I want someone to love the creations. I want someone to use them. So I do take a ruler. I do take a lighter and just quickly seal those cut edges because they will ravel, and that is not fun for anyone. So that centerpiece is done, and that's what it would look like once it gets stitched. So now let's work on our sides. I'm thinking we can have the minky over here. Let's see how wide this is. Oh, look at that. It's a perfect fit. Okay. So I'm going to cut it roughly. Now minky's fuzzy, y'all. Gonna have to vacuum after playing with this one, or get the lint roller out. So I'm going to take it face to face on this center section. Go ahead and find a straight line, stitch it down, flip it back over. And now I'm curious though, what should we do here? You know what we can do? We can just move the whole ribbon unit to the right hand side, and that can be the shining star on the minky. I like that idea. I'm telling you, not professional or any plans here. Let's go ahead then and utilize these two guys by getting a piece of felt ready and getting, should we put beads there? I have a bead stuck in my bead, yo. Look at that. Can you see? There's a bead stuck in there. All done. There we go. Got them out. I like this one. I like that one. I don't know if I can get the felt through these little guys. We can try though. So go ahead and load the felt yarn, not yarn. What is this? It's felt, but it's like a ribbon. It's really, it's different for sure. Yeah, it just says ribbon. So as you can tell, I'm not having any luck getting it through the wooden ball, the wooden bead. So I'm just going to go ahead and put a safety pin, push that through, go ahead and grab it. Maybe we should just leave one on there. The felt is sticking to it though. Like it won't, it doesn't want to spin. Let's see. I don't know if you can hear that. Like it's, the raw wood on the inside is sticking to it. All right. So he can go there. Take my pin out. That'll end up on that side. we can leave this plain and just do some stitching on it for texture. Okay, so at the sewing machine, ooh, look at that. We can bring in those prairie points. So I can go in there at the top, pin those guys down real quickly, and then stitch them close as possible to that edge, knowing that it's going to end up getting bound. Then I will go ahead and stitch here and here on that felt ribbon to hold that down. After I get those two stitched, then I'll go ahead with the red Minky, flipped face to face, stitch a straight line down, bring it back, and most likely, just to avoid it from flipping and flopping all over the place, I'll go ahead and do a stitch down the side just to hold it in place. So I've stitched the Minky down, I've pushed it over, and I've top stitched it on that rear edge. Now it's time to work on the last side. This one, I would like to utilize the spool. Maybe 2 more of the prairie points, and possibly a pocket of some sort. But that would require me finding something to go in the pocket. So I was able to find little pocket-sized poppet fidgets. I have tons of these. I buy them off of Amazon in bulk for kids' treat bags for Halloween, Christmas, all that fun stuff. So this side will be 3 sections. The spool, a pocket that this will be tied and stitched to. It'll come in and out. And the last 2 at the bottom of those prairie points. Looking good so far. So is it making sense? I mean, again, I don't ever have a true system to how to do this. I just kind of create and go along. I might even throw a couple more ribbons on there afterwards. We'll see. So. To be a pocket, it needs 2. See if I can find a longer one. Okay, superhero to the rescue. I will go ahead and get figure out the best way to cut this. What I'm going to do is go inside out. I'll end up having to split that. I'm going to stitch, 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 split, flip it back in. So here you'll see I split it and then I stitched those 3 sides. The only reason why I did that was so that the characters could still be going in the same direction. I do not have my iron on, but if I did, I would go ahead and press these If not, I'm just going to finger press. I even have my little roller over there. So I got that. Then I need a third piece to go behind it. And that can be this guy here. And so remember, after I build 1, 2, and 3 together, I then come and stitch it to this side. I am going to go ahead and top stitch that pocket just so that it stays nice and straight. I am going to go ahead and get, I don't know if it should be on elastic. He's thick elastic. I don't know if you're anything like me, but I just have like scrap bags, weird random crafting tools. It's the fear of, I might need that one day. So I don't know. If I did it on elastic, I would definitely have to stitch that close there. And then when I go to stitch this whole unit, make sure that I get that elastic stitched in there. So the goal would be that whatever type of item is tethering it, is that the child could get it out of the pocket to mess with and then back into the pocket. So I do like it on the elastic. I will go ahead and do that. So just for kicks, just so that I remember, I am going to go ahead and place that there with the clip so that when I sew this little unit to this bottom unit, I remember that that needs to fit in there. I'm wondering if I should bring some solid fabrics back in, because that's a lot of texture and a lot of movement going on. And then you got this one little guy over here. Let's see what I have. I have some baby blue standard minky, the non-dotted one. So we'll go ahead and put that down here with those last 2 prairie points. Now minky, I'll be honest, I know that my local quilt shop carries a couple little bolts of it. I actually get with a local long armor who does offer minky as her backings if you use her services. She sells, you know, the minky backing. So I get with her about her scraps and we make a deal. So that is how I come to having random minky pieces. They're not large at all. I wouldn't, you know, have enough to make a quilt back or anything, but they are great for these type of little projects. So you never know. You can always get with a local long armor in your area and see if they offer minky scraps as well. So now I'm going to sew this blue minky to this center pocket, flip it down, and stay stitch the prairie points at that bottom edge. So I was wrong. I will not be stitching down these prairie points just yet because I still need to sew this side first. But I am just going to be mindful that that is where they are going. And then the top one that will have the spinning spool. I'll go ahead and tuck the fidget into the pocket for now. come up with the game plan for this top. That works for me. I do have two different spools. This one has the wide rims. This one's got the littler. And then I even have this kind that doesn't have anything on the edges. Any spool works. As long as there's, you know, some texture and it spins and doesn't have little parts that can come off and, you know, potentially be choke hazards. But in this case, I guess we can even go for this white one. It does feel kind of funny. It's got like little pricklies on it. And this one doesn't. Yeah, let's go for the white one. So that could either be put on with elastic, just like the poppet was, or it can be put on with the felt again. Either way, whatever you have on hand works. There is no rules to this game. So I will now go ahead and sew the top to the center, and then sew this long side to the middle, catching this felt. And then when I open it back up, I will sew the prairie points down. I will sew the tip of this red here down to stabilize it. Then I'll actually flip it over and I'll trim the whole thing to the size of the backing. Okay, so 1, 2, and 3 have been pieced together. I stitched that long center seam. I also went back, top stitched from where 1 and 2 meet, top stitched again where 2 and 3 meet. That gives it some of that quilting on that back side, going through all 3 layers. Down here at the bottom, you'll see that I got those prairie points added in. I have this far left guy stitched down into place. Just clean up all my threads. So the only thing that's kind of floppy right now is this pocket, and that's because it'll get stitched down in the final round. I'll go here. You can do this with scissors, or you can do this with a rotary cutter. I prefer not to put Minky into my self-healing mat, even though my mat is really old. When you use rotary blades on a fuzzy material like batting and Minky, those little pieces get stuck into your self-healing mat, and it's harder for the self-healing to stay in effect, because it, you know, needs to squeeze back together on its own. Looks like I have a weird little nest right there. That's because it's really super thick. Interesting. If you come across something like that, you can always usually just pull that main string out and then trim it up. I'm wondering if maybe I forgot to pull my bobbin thread up when I started stitching there. So I'm just gonna go around, clean up all of these edges so that we are now squared up with the backing. I could have used a blue bobbin, and I'll be honest, I didn't even think of that. But I'm okay that the quilting lines are showing. That does not bother me at all. And I'm going to make a note here on this edge that is open. I'm also going to get this guy clipped so that when we go to sew that binding on, that gets some extra attention. Now, if your backing was larger, you could have used it as a self-binding, but mine was not. So I am going to have to do traditional binding on it. I'll take a 2.5 or 3-inch long strips. I am, let's see, how big are we? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12. It's coming up at like 12.5-ish by 10, 12, 14, 16, 17-ish. It's not bad. It's a good size. It's got a little bit of weight to it. And then you got the different textures, right? That bumpy minky, the prairie points to play with, the wooden tool, which is smooth, with the ribbons. Like I said, I'll probably add a couple more on there. Then we have this felt down here with the bead that can slide. Then we have more prairie points. If I wanted to, when I go to do this side, I could even add another one. These could have been added in between where two sections meet. Then we have the soft, smooth minky. Then we have the pocket with the hidden poppet. And then we have this top guy with another piece of felt and a thread spool spinner. So you can see it doesn't take much. I didn't buy anything new for it. I just dug through all my crafting supplies. It's just, you know, just put things together. Just, you know, there's no system to it. I just like to think of it as having texture, having things to fidget with, you know, hence the name Fidget Mat. I like to keep it roughly the size of a placemat. That way it can be on a table, it can be in a car seat, it can be on a child's lap. It's very easy to travel with, right? Someone can just close that up, stick it in the pocket of the back of the car seat. But yeah, let me get it bound and we will see the final results. So real quickly, someone gifted me some pre-made binding, so I might just go ahead and use that. I do have some satin tags that I will fold in half and put it hidden somewhere. It might even go on the front as an option to sit here and mess with. I know that my youngest loved tags on everything when he was super little. And then I found Velcro. And so then it got my brain rolling. Look how cute the dinosaur is. He's kind of neon. But I found him when I found the binding. And this is the perfect opportunity to even add more. I can sew the Velcro to the dinosaur. Then I can sew now still a piece of Velcro to the mat. My only fear with that is that then the dinosaur can get lost. So what I might do is take this hole on his wing, maybe put a string so that even though he can come off, he can't necessarily be detached. Let's see if we go this way. Let's pretend. Here's our dinosaur. Here's our Velcro. Here's on the blue, like we can tuck him under those prairie points. What I could do then is from this little circle, not a 1-inch piece of string because that would just be silly, but maybe a 2-inch, something that's still short, but not chokeable. If I would have even found this sooner, I could have put that string, you know, into this seam. That way he just comes on and off. But I think that would work over here. Put the string, and that way if you Velcro him off, he just kind of flips up and out of these little mountain peaks. So I'm going to add that real quickly. And to confirm, I'm going to put a piece of Velcro here, stitch it down. Put a piece of Velcro on him, stitch it down. Find or just use the ribbon, knot him, or actually not knot him. I'll just loop him through. And then that way when I add the binding to this far left side, you can open him up off the Velcro, put him back down. Okie dokie, all done. It is far from perfect. It is super scrappy, super improv, but it's fun and it's going to serve its purpose. In the end, I did add 2 more ribbons just to make it fuller and more links. I did add my satin tag up here in the front. Could have been to the back. I did add the dinosaur on Velcro with a tether, just so he doesn't get lost. And I used the pre-made binding, which served its purpose. Super cute, super scrappy, super funky. Fidget mat. Alrighty. Thanks so much for watching. A comment, a like, a subscribe, and a share is always greatly appreciated. And if you don't know who Leanna from Pastry Queen Farm Adventures is, hop on over to her channel. She goes live most mornings. I can usually catch her on my way to work and listen in. She has tons of tutorial videos. She is a super speeder quilt maker. The woman gets so many done. It's incredible. She does a lot of Quilt of Valors. She does a lot of collections for charities. She does a lot of pass it forwards. I just sent her a whole bunch of quilt tops that she's finishing for teens and foster care. But yeah, alrighty. Thanks so much.